Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about online scammers, swindlers, whatever you want to call them, the manipulators. Anyway, this is going to be a little bit of a continuation of what I did in my previous video. I'm going to talk about the dating element or aspect of this first. Firstly, when you get, like, I don't know, whoever is watching this, some of you have done online dating, others have maybe not. One of the first things to be wary of is I believe the foreign, country scams and scammers or what have you. Or you could have a situation where actually people may claim to be in a foreign land and they could be somewhere in the United States. There's also the ones that come into mind, or one at least that are prominent, or let's say two, are the ones in Ghana, Africa, and Nigeria that is notorious for, online scams. If somebody on a social networking site writes you and they state that they're from there, you don't have to automatically presume that it's something corrupt is going on or something that's not right, but I would, be very wary and be very prudent of anyone that writes from you there, and especially if they're stating, this is a very consistent story that I get from people that, state they're over there, that they have a business there and they need money to come back to the U.S. or something, and they'll promise they'll reimburse you the money when they get back there. I had one person, claiming they were in that area, and they stated that they said they didn't have an account in the U.S. or their account was frozen, and they needed my account information to have money sent there. And they said they would just withdraw, or I could just withdraw the money that they deposited in there, and they wouldn't use it for fraudulent purposes. Now, no one, nobody is going to do that if they haven't, any conception of the fraud that goes online. Then, that's one of the fundamentals, people. You do not fall for any of those, tactics. A lot of times somebody will write and they'll say, well, gee, they also tell, one of the other told tales is that, they have a family member that's very debilitated and sickly, and I need some money to be sent to him or her. And then you send them a little money, then they'll come up and they'll fabricate something else and say, oh, I need, some money for something else, and, and it just really, I've had a number of these people get a hold of me, and I guess maybe because I've been on a number of sites, I think people have gotten my email as well. And one thing you can do is there's a website, and I don't know if they're currently doing this, but on zavasearch.com you could sign up on there, and it doesn't cost any money, at least it didn't when I did it, and you could sign up for something where you can get you get alerts if somebody is searching for you. And I had one time somebody was searching for me in I believe it was Africa somewhere, and this is at a general time period where I was corresponding with somebody that was claiming they wanted a man for marriage, and it just looked a little bit, suspicious to me. And you have to, those are some of the things to be wary of. If somebody writes you, and as far as, like something with the dating, or, this woman, or whether, if you're a woman, and if it's a man writing you, or whatever or they're stating, you got their email and their phone number, at least whatever they give you. You could always Google that. It's another fundamental thing to do. Google the email and or phone number if you get it, and see if there's any negative reports written up on it, or something comes up where there's some fraud connected with the email and or phone number. And I had somebody write me recently and said she was interested in me, and I had looked up the phone number, and basically I wrote her back, and I put the URL or link to the the fraudulent report connected with the phone number, and I said basically, nice try. You know, there's a lot of this going on, and it just never ceases to end. And so many of these people get on these sites because a lot of the social networking sites don't really scrutinize people too well, that thoroughly when you go on them. And basically, essentially, you just need like a valid email to get on these sites. So, there's really, there's not a lot to do to stop these people from getting online. Now, that's some of the things I talked about as far as the dating element or aspect of things. And also, obviously, there's all kinds of other scams as well, besides things that are connected with something, as far as relationships go. Another thing is that, they had something going on for a while, and, I'm sure it still goes on. It'll be something like somebody will write from a foreign country, and they'll say that they have a surfeit of funds, and they can't deposit it into their own account for some reason, that they need, your financial information, or they'll say they need you to come over to the country to perhaps, make the transaction happen. And, obviously someone would have to be fairly gullible in the way to do it, or it could just be somebody that's just, not cognizant of these tactics that are online constantly. And what happens is they'll cajole the person to come to his or her country, and once they get in there, a lot of times they're in there illegally. And what happens consequently when that person that comes from the other country into that country, and if they came illegally, even if they catch wind what's going on is corrupt and something wasn't kosher and there's not this $1 million or whatever it was not available, the only thing they can maybe do at that point, they can report it, but then they can't really report it without incriminating themselves and saying that I was part of this illegal deal or whatever had transpired. So what happens because of that, they're in a the catch-22 situation. So don't fool anybody out there. I know most people won't, but if you're that kind of person that's somewhat trusting, don't fall for those kind of schemes and scams or what have you, because there's a lot of corrupt people out there, and the internet has just expanded. Unfortunately, people doing things, all kinds of fraud and deception because of the internet. Unfortunately, as much as I do like to go online, now everything's, so many things are out there, it's unbelievable. Think of another thing is just not, those kind of scams. It's just very, just be very careful on other things as well. I want to expound on what I was talking about in my previous video. What I did on that website on scorenextdoor.com when I was telling you about how I was typing my passcode in and it was showing up on the thing, and they were able to get into my account and make revisions on things that I didn't necessarily want, and whether they were justified or not, that should have been a red flag right there. And just be very wary. And if some people, you have all these solicitors. If somebody is online and they're saying, telling you something which sounds so grandiose that it can't be true, well then 9 times out of 10 or 99% of the time maybe it probably isn't. And people will write just about anything, sometimes just to cajole you into falling for his or her scam or scheme, and just to be very wary of these things. And really, that's basically what I wanted to get on, is just as far as the fundamentals of just basically kind of knowing, these people out there, and basically you protect yourself. I mean, I'm sure there's websites and stuff that you can sign on, which would maybe do something to give you more protection against maybe certain things like fishing expeditions or what have you. But the thing is, you could still do it, strongly protect yourself even without that. If you just, you go online, you use your common sense, and don't divulge personal information to anybody unless they've established credibility with you and he or she is reputable, and you verify that there's something everything's okay and kosher with this person. Just make sure, if you're not sure of somebody or something, see if something comes up in a Google search. And another thing too is, just because you type something in a Google search and something negative or nothing comes up, that could be a red flag as well, because if you type in, a phone number or an email and it doesn't come up, there's a chance that that is a newly acquired email and or phone number. And if it's new, that could be somebody that is scamming and swindling or what have you, and frequently changes their phone number and email just so they could stay one step ahead of the people that are the good guys that are trying to apprehend these people or trying to put a stop to whatever they're doing. So that's another thing to take into consideration as well. And that's basically what I wanted to get on. That's my thing as far as I guess the online scammers go. And people, I appreciate you listening to me and watching me or what have you. I'm dissertating about this. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.